Hello. Hey guys, how is it going? All right, Daz is in early, gang. Hey guys, so today I'll give us a few minutes here before we get started, but if you guys can't tell by the title, which I believe should be here, I think. Anyway, if you guys are watching on YouTube, which is the only place this is streaming at the moment, so if you're watching on YouTube, yeah, the title of this video, Gunpla Critique, we're here for the 23rd episode, so at this point I don't feel like I probably need to describe it, but just as just kind of very short introduction for you guys. Hey, Strider Prime, how are you doing? I was actually just watching your video just a little bit earlier today, just right actually before I was getting ready for this. I was kind of listening to your video there in the background while I was setting up. So I'll finish listening to that later. But anyway, as I was saying, if you guys are new or not seeing any of the past episodes, basically Gunpla Critique here is a series that I'm doing for my Patreon supporters. So if you guys check out my Patreon page, there's different levels you can choose to support if you'd like to. And once you're at the, I think it's $10 a month or above level, then you can submit works here for Gunpla Critique, which we try to do every month. This episode I meant to do 2 weeks ago, but just as a kind of another quick side tangent, what's been going on in my personal life is that the floor at our house is being redone again. It was redone before we moved in February, but it wasn't done properly. So after months of arguing with the company that did it, finally got them to redo it. So now they're in the process of redoing it, and I've been having to work from home whilst they're redoing it so that I can keep an eye on the contractors and make sure they're doing everything that they're supposed to do. So I've been out of the office basically for most of the past 2 weeks here. So that's why this episode is coming a little bit later. So apologies to my very awesome Patreon supporters who have submitted their works and have been waiting. But yeah, the other perk that is available for you guys on there also, if you guys want to join up on Patreon, is that we have a Patreon Discord as well. So the Discord is also available for you guys, which is very cool. And so just a little bit about that. Of course, you guys can check out that link down in the video description. But Harley, let's see. Harley is saying first time watching. Thank you. That's good. Be sure to check out past episodes. If you find this episode interesting, you can check out past episodes. And Noseblunt asking if I hit the gym. No, I definitely did not. Quite the opposite of that. I've got the dad bod going into overtime over here. And Chris Fabs says, yes, I'm still alive since this morning after our very nice lunch today that Adam bought for us. So thanks to Adam for the lunch today. But yes, I am still alive. Did some videos in the meantime. Worked on some videos unboxing the new Witch from Mercury kits. So excited to build those. What I'm going to do for those, just as a kind of last side note before we get down to business, regarding the new Witch, I keep wanting to say Witch of Mercury. It's going to be terrible trying to remember to say Witch from Mercury. The first two kits, the Lefrith and the Belgier Beau, I think I'm going to do a double live stream build of those. Just build both of those kits in a single live stream since they're both kind of coming out now as like the prologue kits, and then we have to wait until October, I think, for the actual Gundam Ariel to be coming out. So it's going to be a bit of a wait. I figure might as well just kind of do both those kits in a single, fairly long live stream. I don't think it'll take probably much more than 3 hours, 3.5 hours maybe. So we'll just sit down for the afternoon and just build those kits all afternoon. Probably faster than that, but we'll see. It just kind of depends on how much talking I'm doing in between. If it's just me sitting down putting the kits together, probably wouldn't take that long, but I'll be talking to you guys in between. That will hopefully be on Monday. If I can get both of the kits prepped over the weekend, then we can do that live stream on Monday. If not, it might have to be later in the week because the workers working at our house will be back on Tuesday, and it'll probably take them Tuesday and Wednesday to hopefully finish up by Wednesday. Fingers crossed. So hopefully we can do the live stream on Monday so that we don't have to wait until later in the week. Mercury asks, will there be a restock of the Gym? I don't know about that. You can email in to the support at USA Gundam Store and ask, or just like a message on one of the social media sites. If Adam was here, he might be able to tell you, but he's in the other room. I think he's in his office there. Are you getting the RG God Gundam, Isaac asked? Yes, definitely. I should have that on the way soon. So probably in about a week and a half to 2 weeks from now. I know it's out, but just now, because like I said, because I've been out of the office, I have to do a little bit of catching up, and then when I get to the God Gundam. But yeah, I do want to get to that as soon as possible. Mercenary, what up? And I know that Mafia U is here. I think I saw Mafia U in the chat as well too, right? Yes, of course. There as always, and that's who we're going to be taking a look at first. So let's get into it here, taking a look at Mafia U's work. So let me just put this up on the screen for us. I kind of switched around my screens for how I want to do this. I think this might be a little bit easier for me. If I can find this, put this on screen. Okay, so it is a custom Mekamasuma build, as you can see, but one that he's done previously. I believe this is not his contest entry. So again, just another reminder for you guys. We do have the contest currently going on, the Mekamasuma custom contest. And we actually, I just got at lunchtime today, we found out what the prizes, or at least what some of the prizes are going to be from Kotobukiya. So again, that's really awesome that Kotobukiya is like the premier sponsor for this contest for us, of course, with me and myself and USA Gundam Store as well. But Kotobukiya, we got an email that let us know what some of the prizes are, and then we have some more prizes that are going to be added to that as well. So I'll probably post an update for you guys regarding that on Monday. So if you guys are entering the contest, planning on entering the contest, I should have an update regarding what some of the prizes are going to be for you guys on Monday. So look forward to that. A lot of stuff. Kotobukiya is very graciously sending us a lot of kits for prizes for you guys. So that's really cool. So there should be a lot of really great stuff to win in there. Okay, let's see. So Mafia is there in the chat, which is awesome. It's good to have the person here live. Makes it more convenient when we have questions or anything. But he said, yeah, this was before the contest, but my contest entry might be related to her, he says. Okay. Just real quick here, Kihel asked, as a vet builder, always good content, tips, and more. Glad to see you have an inch. Oh, thank you. I thought that was a good leading into a question, but it was just a compliment anyway. Thank you for that. And you're welcome. Okay, so let me just also refer back really quick to his email on this one. But I think basically he said that this was his first time working with putty, with epoxy putty specifically. Where's the email? Here we go. This is the right one. Let me see. Sorry, guys. I have like 4 different email accounts that I have to check for different things. So this one is here. Okay, yeah, he said, so this one's based off of the Gundam Throne, of course, as you guys can see there. First time using epoxy putty. So let me know what you think of it okay, that's all really. So first time using epoxy putty. My first impression was that I didn't notice where you used epoxy putty. So I'll have to look at this more closely. So as you guys can see, this is mostly the HG Throne kit. Which Throne exactly kit is this? I always get them confused. But the Mekamasuma parts, those would be of the Go-Rai, I believe, if that's correct. So you got like the Go-Rai. Oh, okay. So probably epoxy putty around this section here to kind of meld the Go-Rai torso with the GN drive in the center. That looks like probably what he's talking about there, I would say. So you got like the Go-Rai, basically most of the Go-Rai's body here, but the forearms are from the Throne kit, and obviously the legs from the knee down are from the Throne HG kit. Nippiko Architect kit. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking, oh, it is Nippiko. It is Go-Rai. Oh, yeah. Okay. Anyway. Oh, Architect. Wait a minute. Is that not the Go-Rai's hairstyle? I get the 2 of them mixed up because their hairstyle is so similar. But anyway, Architect kit. All right. That was going to be my second. That was actually my first reaction. At first, I thought it was the Architect, but then looking at the hair, I thought, no, wait, that's a Go-Rai. Anyway, they're very similar, I feel like. But I mean, yeah, like I said, it took me a minute to figure out where that was. I mean, I think if that was the extent basically of the use of epoxy putty there, just for making the torso part all kind of fit together. I think it worked pretty well. I will say, because of how dark the red is, that's kind of switching stuff around. Because of how dark this red is, I mean, it's a bit dark, so I can't see it very clearly, but from what I can see, I think it looks pretty nice. And I will say, just like the colors, especially on the skin, I'm wondering, did you paint the skin? It does look like it's fully painted, or did you like shade the skin with paint? So putty on the hair and some gap filling. Oh, okay, so there's putty on the hair as well. Let's see if we can see where that is. So maybe just to change up like the detail here on the back of the head. I guess maybe because I think it has holes in there. If it's, especially if it's the Nipako kit, it probably had holes there. So maybe just putty to fill in the holes and just kind of covering that up with some added detail there, it looks like. But I mean, like the kind of shading done there, I'm not exactly sure maybe exactly how that was done. It looks like it was almost done maybe with like the weathering pens or something. But I mean, it looks pretty good. Yeah. Let's see. Yes, I used the white peach with the clear orange from the Laviscus. I always love the pronunciation of that line, but yeah, for Mr. Color, their skin tone line of paints, which are really nice. Okay, so that's what he used for the skin tone. Well, yeah, it looks nice. Skin's not easy to do, but it looks pretty good. Looks like the shading on the forearms is maybe a bit dark, but like the face looks nice. And so those are some obviously new just waterside decals added there on the face. Then the original Nipako kit would have not those colors or this design of eyes. Could just be the photo, because I mean, like, again, with how dark everything is kind of around here, this section is all just, I feel like I'm not like seeing it all that clearly. So like in one photo, the shading on the skin on the arms looks a bit dark, but on this one it doesn't look as bad. So it just kind of depends on the lighting. The shading area, shading was done with the Tamiya Weathering Master Box. Okay. Yeah, that all looks nice. Yeah. Here, I was thinking that on the front, it looks like some of the red, and it could just be kind of like where it is. It looks like some of the red is like a little bit thick, or like there's parts like here. This pink, you can see, it looks like is a little bit messy, not quite as clean. And this part, and I can't tell if that's just like a blurry bit of the photo or something, or if it's just the masking here. Because I'm assuming that this white strip here in the center was done with masking that. So I'm not sure if maybe some of that red paint just went under your masking tape there, maybe a little bit on the forearm, because you can see it in this photo as well, like there. So maybe just be careful with the masking tape. Make sure, always double check. I mean, I hate masking, and this is the reason why, because it takes so many times of double and triple checking your masking tape. Because before you spray that paint, always double check that the masking tape is pressed down everywhere it's supposed to be. Even if you put the masking tape on, and then it's literally like 30 seconds from then going to that to then going over to your airbrush and spraying the paint on, within that 30 seconds, some of that masking tape might have popped up or something in some corner or something. Just to be sure, always press down again right before spraying the paint, because you never know when that might pop up. But he's just saying in the chat that there were some mistakes in there. I mean, yeah, that's going to happen. So that's what we're here to just kind of take a look at, see how we can improve. I don't know, but I think like the shading in the red parts and like the most of the paint looks pretty smooth. It's only in like the little bits that are like the smaller color apps that aren't as clean. So like the pink here, the pink up in the shoulder looks like maybe some of that it looks like probably while you were trying to clean up that paint. Sorry, I didn't mean to rotate that. That maybe some of that pink paint got kind of spread across that part a little bit. So maybe that was kind of difficult to clean up. And then like down here, the yellow looks like it was maybe stained a little bit from like the panel lining, something like that. So I mean, yeah, it's just a small little color apps that are kind of like some of the later steps, some of the last steps you're going to do in painting that can be kind of tricky. This part here, I would assume is not on purpose. Sometimes this can be done on purpose. So if you're doing like a kind of gradient shading kind of look to it. You might have this, but I would assume that this is maybe not on purpose. How I think these two parts are supposed to be the same color, because the shading is darker up around here, and this part, it almost looks like a completely different red. It could be that it's meant to be a completely different color red. It's meant to be just like a kind of subtly different color. But it's hard to tell. It's either that or just this part wasn't shaded as heavily, or something got an extra coat of paint, so that once you put these parts together, the color didn't quite match up quite right. It's kind of hard to tell if that was on purpose or not, but if not on purpose, it's just kind of the thing that when you're doing shading, when you're painting all the parts separately, and then once you go to actually put the parts together, you realize, oh, these colors, like how I shaded the parts, are just a little bit different between this part and this part. Once I put them together, then you can see, oh, they actually look quite different. In that case, unfortunately, sometimes you just have to go back over it, and like the part that's a little bit darker, going over it again with the lighter color to hopefully lighten it up. Otherwise, if you need to darken it up, it's kind of a little bit more complicated. You might have to strip it. Let's see, said it was one color, but they dried different. Yeah. So, I mean, I've had that happen to me where you think everything, when you're painting all the separate parts and everything's just all on skewers, they all look basically the same color. It's only once you get them right next to each other, you can see, oh, they don't quite match up. But like I said, it's not obvious that it's unintentional. It's not obvious that it's a mistake. So I think it kind of works out for you that with those parts being like that. So that's why one kind of trick that I've done to kind of try to combat that type of thing happening is painting the parts that are like the same parts, painting them at the same time. So like, for example, like this main wing section, like paint both of those, and then these like secondary parts, which are like the moving parts that fit on top of there, paint those right after. So it's not like you're painting other parts in between, and then you might like paint one wing part and then you paint a few other different like random part, leg, body parts, and then you come back and paint the other wing. But if you paint those two parts right back to back, you have a better kind of memory, and you can actually just hold them right next to each other. You kind of have them both out right at the same time. You can more easily recognize that the colors are going to match or not, rather than if you go through and like paint a bunch of other different parts in between. It's something that I've found that does kind of help a little bit. Maybe something you could try. I don't know if maybe that's what you did or not, but let's see. Strider also said, also make sure the painted surface is clean before applying the tape. Yeah, yes, should be clean, but ideally all your parts, before you're doing your masking, ideally all your parts would be clean, but just to avoid any like extra dust, kind of depending on how long you're waiting between coats or something like that, could be a little bit dusty or something like that. Sure. But no, I think in terms of just like the melding of the two kits, I think it's actually really quite successful. I'm just like subjectively, I'm not really that big of a fan of like the top of the Gundam head, or just like a V fin just kind of like stuck on the head of the Mekamasuma design. I know it's something a lot of people do it, and I think it doesn't look bad. It just personally not to my taste. But I mean, I know I've seen some beautiful builds that do that. I mean, quite effectively. And I think like if you wanted, because the only other way around it would be to sculpt an entirely new piece. Like if you wanted to have it so that it looked like something on her head, like some sort of helmet or something like that, was designed to look like the Gundam's top of the head design. Obviously, that part from the Gundam head is not going to fit on top of her big melon head. So in order to do that without doing it like this, the only other option would be just to sculpt an entirely new piece that is something that is of the right size and shape that could actually fit onto the head, like as like a kind of helmet. But just like the sort of top of the head part just kind of like tacked on there to the top of the head, like I said, is something I've seen quite a lot of times. This one, I think like maybe this is not visible from the front, so I wouldn't really worry too much about this. But if this was something that I would have done, maybe what I would have done is just to cut this red part here at the bottom to make it a little bit more curved, so that it's a little bit more form-fitting to the top of the head. Then you leave the white part, but just that red part here, just like file that down underneath so it's a bit curved there, if that makes sense. Just to just kind of fit the shape a little bit nicer. But no, overall, I think it is quite successful. I've mentioned this before that I find that probably 80 to 90% of the time when I see people trying to kit bash like HG Gundam kits and Mekamasuma kits, whether they be 30 minutes missions or frame arms or Megami device, they're not that successful. It's not too easy to do. But I think probably what is the best thing that you did, because like matching up arm and leg parts is not too difficult, because basically you're just kind of having them meeting up at the joint, meeting up at the knee, or meeting up at the elbow there. The more difficult part is around the chest and the head section like that. And I think the work that you did to combine the torso section there is what makes it work as well as it does. So I think that looks pretty good. No, I think it's nice. Yes. The red is a bit darker than I would have gone, but I know that's the color it's supposed to be. I just don't particularly like that dark of red, like the Epion. I think that's one reason why I've never built the Epion kit. I love the Epion in the anime, and the kit itself looks fantastic. I just don't really like that color, that like a too dark red. I feel like it's just kind of a very attractive color for model kits. I don't know, just a personal thing. But no, I think that that turned out really good. So interested to see what you're going to be working on for the Mekamasuma Contest. Then off you. Let's see. Let's take a look at Ryan's here next. Ryan sent. This was the kit that he did for the recent Battle Log contest just earlier this year. So we can take a look at that. Let me put this up on screen for you guys. All right. Let's see, not that. We want to put this on screen. Here we go. Okay, so this was, now I'm forgetting what the name of this kit was. What was the name of this kit? One of you guys can remind me. This is one of the Battle Log kits that I didn't build, obviously. It's based off of the Freedom Gundam. But it had like a very interesting design and backpack. Strike Freedom, actually, I should say. Because, yeah, it uses the funnels, right? But let's see. And let me also just refer back to his email and see what he said about it. He said that he was pretty proud of this one, though every time I look at it, I see those at the shoulders, I think basketball. So yeah, with the orange basketball shoulders, that makes sense. And he also says it was his first scribing project, and lines didn't turn out and clean as straight as he'd hoped. So let's take a look at the scribing as well. Now, first of all, Perfect Strike Freedom, that's what it was. Thank you. Yes, because it was kind of like a mix of like sort of design elements of the Perfect Strike as well as the Strike Freedom. Right. Okay. First of all, and I plan to make probably next week, I'll make a full video just talking about this, about like kind of tips, do's and don'ts of online submission into contests. That should hopefully help you guys out with this, with the current Mekamasuma contest and just contests into the future. But just for this particular entry, just one thing to note about the presentation of this is that just the stuff on the desk is kind of distracting. Now, if you're submitting this for an online contest, I mean, obviously the stuff on the desk is not going to take away from the quality of your build. So, I mean, if you have a really good or bad quality build, it's still going to be judged the same way. The stuff that you have going on in the background won't necessarily be points against you. It just doesn't make it very attractive or like eye appealing for the judges that are trying to look at your build and then kind of having all this other stuff going on in the background. So I understand not everybody's got like a full like photo set up with lights and a background and everything like that, but just I mean, if you would have just like taken the magazine off the counter, not have like this in the background on the table, and like this light, I understand maybe you're using that for light, but just try to put it off to the side, so it's at least out of frame, so you can still kind of get the light that you need, but does not have the actual base of the light in frame. So just kind of things to keep in mind, because like I said, it's not really going to do too much to like help or harm you as far as like your entry, because we're focused, you know, on the kit itself, judging it, but it is distracting and just doesn't really do anything to help your presentation of the kit. So something to keep in mind when you're submitting work for a online contest. As for the kit itself, I think the color scheme, I mean, I get what you're saying about it reminding you of basketball, but I mean, I think the orange looks cool. The idea for like an orange and white color scheme for this kit, I think works well. I'm not really too keen on the metallic orange. I think it's like a different color of orange, like a different tone of orange from this, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like a matching orange, but it just looks a bit odd matched with the orange on the body. So I think with this, you probably could have gone either all one or the other. So like all this metallic orange or all this bright orange. And I think it probably would have been a more coherent look for the kit. And I mean, I know maybe you wanted to use more colors. And so I think if you really wanted to use that metallic orange, maybe just relegating that metallic orange to maybe, I don't know, maybe just the inner frame, considering that this kit originally, well, I don't know about this kit, the Strike Freedom anyway, originally has the gold inner frame, right? That still might be quite a lot of that though. So I don't know. I mean, even just like a couple little parts like this part here, this orange part here, if you had like all this main orange and then for the funnels all in the same orange, and you wanted to use some of that metallic orange as well, just maybe a little bit of that metallic orange, like right here on the top of the crotch, and then maybe like, I don't know, your chest vent parts right there, something like that, just a little bit of it. So you could still use that color if you really wanted to use it, maybe like here on the top of the head or something, possibly. But as it is, well, you have almost a pretty even balance of 50-50 amount of regular orange and metallic orange. I think you need to either have more like a 80-20 or 90-10% of those two different colors. I think would have been a better balance as far as balancing the colors out a little bit better. I feel like the white needs some breaks. The joints kind of mesh with it too. Yeah, that's another good point Chris brought up, is that, yeah, I'm totally for, you know, non-standard colors for the inner frame, you know, instead of like gunmetal, silver, gray for the inner frame, you know, doing something different, whether it be white, or tan, orange, whatever it might be. So if you want to do a different color for the inner frame, I'm all for that. But yes, if the majority of the armor is going to be white, you're going to have like what is basically a white inner frame as well, it is going to be a lot of white. And he did, to be fair, use multiple tones of white, which you can see here. But the problem with that is that his whites also don't really match up as far as their color tones, because you've got this part here, which is like a cool tone white, right next to this part here, which is like a white, it's like a warm tone white, next to this part here, which is a fairly neutral looking white as far as I can tell. And it could just be the lighting. It's kind of difficult to tell with the lighting of it. But, and this part here might also very well be the same as this lower part, the same color used for that. And it could just be kind of how it's catching the light. It's looking cooler. But anyway, aside from just using like different tones of white, you also kind of have to keep in mind like the color temperature, warm white, cool white, because that will kind of affect like how well your colors really go together. So you have all these warm colors, and then you have like a cool white will not mesh well with that. So things to keep in mind. And there's certain things that you can do too with the panel lining of that as well, which, speaking of which, I'm not sure if there's panel lining. It's either a very light panel lining done on this or not at all, certainly not in some sections. Like it looks like maybe like here on the weapon, you can tell there's some panel lining, because it almost looks like you probably could have cleaned that up a little bit more. Either that, or that's just unfortunately getting kind of messy here from the gold paint added onto this little detail here on the weapon. that may be in the process of kind of cleaning that up. That got a little bit messy down here on this section. It's kind of hard to tell, but like with how clean the rest of the kit seems like it's supposed to be, to then have this area that looks kind of more weathered, dirty kind of section, it makes it seem like it's probably not on purpose. Like that's probably not meant to be weathering, but it's probably just some paint work. But no, then you have like this section here, which does look like it's intentional streaking, which I'm not too sure about. I think I saw that on the other side of the weapon as well. Yeah, like if you look on the weapon on this side, it does look like that's almost intentional, like weathering, streaking on there. But then like the rest of the main body doesn't, there's no weathering on it. And it's hard to tell if there's even any panel lining on it. So it's just not consistent with the rest of the kit, how this is all very clean. As far as your custom panel lining on it, I may just not be that familiar with the build because I'm looking around trying to figure out where's the scribing on it. I think maybe this line across the ankle armor there, that's custom scribed, and I think maybe this one going around the back side of the legs, that's also scribed in there, I believe, right? But I'm not familiar enough with the original kit. Yeah, as Chris is saying there, a panel wash can really help with the different whites, grays. Yes, so that is one way to, when you're using multiple tones of white, one way to definitely help to tie them together is by using like whatever panel line color you're using, whether it just be gray. On white, I would not recommend using black. You can if you want to go that route, but I would recommend using gray or some other kind of lighter color. Could even be tan. Could even have gone with like a very light, not very bright. I think it would be kind of intense, but with like a light pale orange color for your panel lining for this, I think could have also been quite interesting, especially with a white frame. Getting a little kind of stylistic with the colors with it, I think could have been pretty cool. But I'm just trying to see where else there might be any other custom scribing on this. This right here is on the back of this wing part here. That's a panel line, which could have been sealed up. Honestly, it doesn't necessarily bother me all that much. As far as like, not panel line, sorry, a seam line. As far as like an unsealed seam line. But I think what would be a worse offender would be a bad mold line, which I thought I saw on that photo. There was a mold line on the back of the leg, but maybe not. And then once I was looking closer at it, I didn't see it. I thought there was a mold line going on here, but maybe not. Anyway, mold line is just something else to look out for, of course. Other than that, yeah, I would say, I mean, I think just going in, actually panel lining some of these details, I think the color scheme in general, I think it was a cool idea for the color scheme. I think the balance of colors, I mean, the amount of white honestly really doesn't bother me all that much. I think with all the white armor and the white frame, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of white, but if you're breaking it with multiple tones of white, and then once it's actually all panel lined in and everything to really bring out all the details and just kind of help to separate the white out, at least just with like all the detail lines and everything, I think could be enough to break that up. Like for me personally, I think the main color balance that I think could have helped out a little bit would just be the amount of metallic orange to regular bright orange, a little bit more or less of one of the two. But overall, I mean, I think it was a good idea for the color scheme. What was the other thing that I was going to say about this? Yes. Here on the front, the decals, it's pretty light on the decals. There's really only a few. These ones around here on the torso and the shoulders for like some of the main markings. You can see there's some on the backpack as well. Those all work pretty well. But these ones here on the front of the skirts don't really work well for me. If you're going to use decals like that, and I see this relatively often, I see a lot of people using these kind of like line decals because that's kind of a trend in recent years for like official decals from Bandai. They use a lot of this kind of style of using the little lines going around the edge of different armor sections, things like that. But you kind of need it around a more sections than just right here. If it's only in one part, then it looks a bit out of place. It's something that if you want to go with that design, I think you need to continue that on to other areas of the build as well. Like the back skirts, obviously, as one example. Then like on like around here, maybe on part of the legs. But honestly, I don't think that it really fits with the design overall very well. So I probably would have done without these decals there on the front skirts, because the rest of the decals are done in a fairly very light, pretty, simple. What's the word? I just had it in my mind. Anyway, tasteful way. Yeah, it's not too much. And I think you don't necessarily have to throw loads of decals on there. But yeah, so I think that should just about cover that. Otherwise, yeah, it was a good entry, but there's just things that you can work on, I think, and just kind of in general, just detail painting, detailing some of the final steps in it that I think could help as well. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Sorry, my wife was calling there. Hang on, let me just text back. She wants. Okay, and next we'll take a look at Ricky's. Why don't we take a look at Ricky's works here? Work, I should say. One submitted build here. Put this up on screen. Is of the Lurlybell kit, the Nuke Matrix Lurlybell kit. We just have a couple of photos of this. According to her email, got the, let's see, he said pretty much a straight build, right? That's what I just wanted to kind of get the quote exactly. I remembered that it was a straight build. I just kind of wanted to get what it was exactly. They said it was, yeah, pretty much a straight build with this, with the Lurlybell. So we just have a few photos to go off of. And I will say, number one, it's just a little bit difficult to see, unfortunately, just because it's a bit kind of overexposed from the photo, the lighting of it. So it's kind of hard to see. It looks like there is some shading kind of attempted here on like the hair, just to kind of bring out some of the details of the hair a bit. And I'm not sure what color was used, but for that, all right, there's the most natural color is basically what you want to do is just go for something that's slightly darker than whatever the hair color is. So like if you have like light pink hair, you would want to do your shading in just like a little bit darker pink. That's kind of really all you need. So not really sure what this is, if that's like a gray or like a light tan. That's really hard to tell. So I'm sorry to say about that, but it's quite dark anyway. So just something to keep in mind. If you're doing like green hair, you want to do your shading in just like a little bit darker green. Or if it's like brown hair and you want to do it in a little bit darker brown, but usually you want to stick to the same color, just a little bit darker version of that. It's not like with a Gundam kit where if it's a yellow or red part on like a Gundam kit, then you would want to do your panel lining in brown, for example. You wouldn't want to, for like yellow hair, you could, I guess, like yellow hair Mekamasuma or like anime girl kit, if you were to do like shading in brown on yellow hair, would be pretty dark. Man, it depends on exactly what kind of brown you're talking about, I guess, and what kind of yellow, because it maybe could work, but yeah. Let's see. How do I email? Robert's asking, how do I email images of my first straight build of the Ale Strike? So the Patreon link is down below if you want to check that out. These Gunpla critique episodes, even though so far it's been, it's like half Gunpla so far. It's not always entirely Gunpla, but anyway. Yes, this is for my Patreon supporters. So if you would like to join Patreon, I would very much appreciate it. And then you can also submit works for next month's critique and join the Discord, and also you would just have my great appreciation. But one thing that's really cool to see with this build too is just to see the decals on the clear part. So if you guys saw my review of this, I didn't put the waterside decals on the clear part on mine yet, because that would just be something that I would wait to do until like the kit is actually painted and everything. But it's interesting to just see, for an example, how the waterside decals look on there. I'm not sure if there's also any top coat done on that, because you can like really see the outline of the decals, which is a bit unfortunate or distracting or something. And I'm not too sure if that's just how the decals look on the clear part, or if that's just maybe the like a decal setting fluid maybe that was used that kind of had that effect to kind of blur the decals a little bit, kind of blur the area around the decals a little bit, or if that's maybe some reaction like with the top coat used on that clear part. I'm not sure. I'd have to kind of see it more closely and in greater detail to be able to say for sure. Robert, if you can't join Patreon, that's perfectly fine. If you would like to just send your photos to me, just like in like a message on my Facebook page, if you're on Facebook, or on Instagram, you can always just private message me anytime. I have people that will just private message me pictures of their build, and they just want some feedback or opinions. I'm perfectly happy to do that. So you can send stuff to me at any point in time, and I can give you feedback, whatever, my thoughts about your builds. It's only for if you want to be featured on the on these Gunpla critique episodes, then you have to be a Patreon supporter. I'm not sure on the wash used on the hair, Chris said. Yeah. Are you also chiming in on the point that I already made about that, Chris, or are you making a different point about that? Yes, as I said, yeah, I think whatever wash color was used on the hair, I would recommend just like a darker pink or something. And I know that you may be thinking like, I have panel lining color for black, gray, and brown, but I don't have darker pink, whatever that is. In that case, you would have to mix up your own color. That's what I mean. Probably you would have to take some like either like what I would probably use if I was just going to mix up a color like that to use for this would probably be like a white and clear red, maybe even, to make a semi kind of translucent pinkish color. They sent the message some time ago. Okay, is there some maybe some lag there? And yeah, that does tend to happen with StreamYard. I don't know why when I'm using StreamYard to see the chat, sometimes it'll be like a minute of like no chat showing up, and then like suddenly a minute's worth of chat will suddenly pop into there for me. So sorry about that, Chris. As for the little robot guy, again, it's kind of hard to tell if I'm just seeing the shine of the plastic or if that's got some kind of like more of a gloss top coat or something used on that. But it's got a kind of cool, either way, it's got a kind of cool shiny look on there. It looks like maybe some filing was done a bit here on the side. I'm not sure if that's just to remove the nub or if that was an attempt to kind of get rid of the seam line there, because there are seam lines on the legs right here, I know. So looking at this one, it's kind of harder to see. So I'm not sure if there was an attempt to get rid of the seam line there and you can still kind of see it, or if there was no attempt made and you can still see the seam line. Either way, but either way, you can still see the seam line. It looks like maybe that this one is the only reason that we can kind of see these scuff marks here a little bit is just because it's unfortunately just catching that in the light. Because when you look at this photo, it looks much more smooth just because of the differences in how the light's hitting that. So that could just be from, again, just filing or sanding, maybe not necessarily in an attempt to get rid of that seam line, but just to get rid of the nub mark, I guess, possibly. Which, if I remember correctly, those parts on this kit are undergated. But anyway, you can still see some like oversanding or overfiling there on the side for whatever the reason. That's just the kind of thing that you just have to get rid of by just sanding more in a lighter grade sandpaper just to kind of clean that up, because especially on a dark plastic like that, it's going to just catch the light really easy. If it's on like white plastic, unless you're looking at it just at the right angle, it's going to be really difficult to see anything like that on white plastic, or even like on the pink plastic. But on that dark plastic, it's gonna catch the light. It's gonna be really obvious. But other than that, I mean, yeah, it's a cool kit, and it's really interesting, like I said, to see it with all the decals and everything on it. So I would highly recommend you guys to check out this kit if you're interested in Mekamasuma kits. The Nuke Matrix kits, the Fox one, and then this one, the Lilybell one, are both. I really enjoy both of them a lot. So I can just say on a side note, the kits are fantastic. I highly recommend them for you guys. And it's a cool build. I wish I could see it a little bit better to be able to give, maybe a little bit more useful feedback on that. But I hope those couple of points are something that can be useful for you, Ricky. But I think this is also their first time, if I remember correctly, submitting something for a critique. So we'll look forward to future entries. Okay, lastly, we have Joel's, who submitted 2 different builds here. The first one, put this up on screen for you guys first, and then I can tell you what he said about that. This one is a very cool kit bash. Let's see. Actually, they're both kind of kit bashy. Kit bash elements, mixing elements, as our friends in Japan would say. So this one, just before I refer to his email, as you guys can see here, is the Master Grade Gundam The Origin with a Master Grade Sniper 2, Gym Sniper 2 head on it. And it's a very interesting idea. Let's see, Jules here. He said, Origin MG custom concept. There's actually 2 versions, one of the RX and this one. This is the 02 Kai version. More photos of the RX version to come. I just wanted to get in touch with these. I don't think he ultimately sent any more pictures of the RX version, I don't think. But let's see. But I just wanted to get these in tonight in hopes they could make the latest critique. Yes, so... Okay. Other than that, yeah. So as you guys can see, it's a very familiar color scheme. If you remember my HG, the Origin kit, I painted in these real type colors. This is the real type color scheme. Very similar colors to what I used for the HG kit. So I gotta say, I love the color scheme, definitely. And yeah, the matching of the Gym Sniper 2 head here on the Origin Gundam actually works pretty well. It does look a bit small with this big boxy torso, because that's one of the design elements about the Origin version of the Gundam that I know some people don't like, is how like big and boxy the torso is. I like it, but compared with this head, which is quite like small and like very streamlined looking, it doesn't match up like perfectly maybe, but I think it looks good. I think it looks pretty cool. That's a very small nitpick. I think when you look at the kit as a whole, it's not something that you're gonna, it's not something that like immediately stands out. But yeah, the Gym Sniper 2's torso is much smaller, I think, in its design. If you look at the 2 kits like side by side, just like how big the torso is on that kit, it's quite small actually. But overall, I mean, yeah, it looks great, very clean, of course, which is nice to see. The decals look good, the colors look nice. I mean, you've got what is that, like a little bit of more sanding could be done, just like clean up just some of the nub there that was like not sanded perfectly on some of these parts here. This, I can't remember what this is. It looks like there was like a raised detail here on the side of this handle bit right there that was maybe sanded off, but not entirely. So I mean, this is getting like, we're having to zoom in really close to find these imperfections. So I mean, like, take this all with a grain of salt, but it looks like, I mean, if you're going for a hyper clean build, then you really need to make sure that you're really getting all these details. And these are the kind of things that you I don't know if you guys can hear that. Sounds like some jet flying right over the building. these are the kind of things that you would hopefully identify at the priming stage, and then you could go back and sand these bits a little bit more to kind of do what you need to do to kind of clean them up a little bit before you get to your painting. But when you have a lot of parts, sometimes you miss little things like that, and it could be even once you get it all painted and decaled and detailed up and put together, and you still might not notice, and it just takes a second set of eyes to notice some small things like this sometimes. But if you're going for a super clean build, it's just the kind of things that you definitely have to look out for, because if you've got everything really, really clean, then anything that's even slightly not clean, like here on the side of the arm right there, those kind of two little shadows, I'm not really sure what that is on there, but it's something that's going to stick out. And like here along the edge of the shoulder, how like the paint is maybe just, it's either just like catching the light a little bit, which I think probably is what's going on, that's just like catching the light. But either that, or it also looks like, is that a little bit of like unintentional weathering on there, or like a little bit of the paint like rubbed off a little bit there, or what, I'm not too sure. But one cool thing he did was the beam saber racks here on the backpack, turn those upside down and then turn those into fuel tanks. That's a cool idea. I've always kind of putting fuel tanks anywhere where they're like right near the backpack thrusters has always seemed like a kind of nonsensical thing to me in terms of just like the way that mobile suits and Gundams are designed. Because you see that, I mean, not just here, from like the Gundam 04 and Gundam 05 are another example of that, where it's got these big massive fuel tanks like right next to the backpacks. Seems a bit dangerous in reality, but I mean, with a giant, science fiction mecha, you kind of have to suspend reality a little bit for that. But like here's another part that looks like maybe it's a nub that could have been sanded a little bit more up on the bazooka, and this was something that I noticed right away as well. To hear a little bit of silver like around the lens here on the head, and again, it's kind of hard to tell if that's just silver paint up in there just to kind of help to catch the light underneath the clear part, and then just what kind of wasn't cleaned up all the way, or if that weathering here and then not having it weathering anywhere else around here doesn't really fit. So I think that's just something probably that just could have been cleaned up a little bit better. I do really like the clear lens parts there used here on the chest. That looks cool. I would have maybe gone with a different color, maybe just like a green to match the green on the head, I suppose, or orange maybe, or maybe two different colors. I think would have looked cool, like doing one orange and one green, something like that. It could have been kind of cool too, but the use of those parts for that is nice. Overall, it's a really cool looking build for sure. There's a little bit like this little detail painting back here on these like raised details here. It looks like on the backpack. The two-tone color of that yellow inside the silver part for the backpack, also pretty cool. And I like this here on the side, IT2KI. Oh, Kai, right? It was what? 02 Kai. Yeah, that's what it was. But yeah, very cool build. Let's see. I think there's a lot of photos. Sorry, I'm just kind of focusing on like those two photos. There's a number of more photos of the kit that we can see. So yeah, cool build, very clean. And when you look at it, like looking at it as a whole, those tiny little imperfections that I was pointing out, I mean, you're not going to notice that. It's only when you get up really close and that you'll notice any kind of imperfection, something like that. So it's the kind of thing that you generally don't really need to worry about too much, but just something that otherwise the build's very clean. There's not really too much else I could say about it. So if I have to say anything, I can zoom in really close and find a couple of imperfections here and there, but overall I think it looks great. So that's this build. We have another one from Joel here as well, which is of the Master Grade Dom. Get this open on screen for you guys. Clean boys. What's Forlif? Oh, that's Chris is like a Gen Zer over here with the internet slang. Okay, sure, Chris. Here's his DOM from Joel. Let me see what he said about this. Just he said, here's another kit. Okay, he'd like to add. So with this one, so let's go through these photos here real quick. Basically, as you guys can see, we've got a DOM with modifications, once again, adding fuel tanks to the backpack. So it seems like it's a preferred theme, which I can get. Sis, I was just joking. I know what for life means. I was just giving Chris a hard time. Anyway, yeah, I'm all for adding fuel tanks. I always like some added fuel tanks. The top ones look, I mean, when you look at it from a certain angle, they do look a bit tacked on to there. So maybe like adding some little bit more something else kind of in between there, I think could have looked cool, but it's only when you look at it from like a particular angle. Looking at the kit like from any other like just kind of normal front view, if we can find another one here, you're not really going to see that. You're just going to see these fuel tanks sticking up on the back, which looks cool like that. I will say that the only thing that I kind of dislike about this is there's a little bit too much going on, I think, for me. Like everything that's going on with the bazooka, I really like how the bazooka looks. This is sort of like a kit bash of different bazooka parts. It's the Rakuten bazooka, but it seems a bit different. The design of that, it's got like the bar at the front's different. So you made kind of like a space version of the Rakuten bazooka, basically, it looks like. The commander antenna added onto the head, that's cool. The addition of the Panzerfaust is cool. But if you wanted to add a shield, I mean, using like the Jim Custom and or Quell shield, I think it is, right? Using that shield can work. I think there's just a lot going on, and like for like the DOM's design, I don't know. Then with the bazooka on the back and then the machine gun in hand and everything, I think if you would have had this with like just the bazooka and then maybe like just the Sturmfaust on just like a Sturmfaust like rack connection piece, just like there on the arms, I think, and then like without the bazooka, without the bazooka on the back, without the shield and without the rifle in hand, I think would have looked just really nice and like simple. So it's still got like a little bit different look and a little bit different like loadout with the weapons. So it's still like a customized version of that. But as it is, it's got a lot of equipment on there. So like for my personal taste, maybe a little bit too loaded up with equipment. But again, the cleanliness of it is very nice. The decals are really nice. It does have some scribing around here on the legs, and I think that's why we have a number of different photos down here, kind of showing the legs kind of from all sides, just to kind of show off the panel lining done on here. So that all looks nice and crisp. Just kind of with those parts, you basically have no detail. If you guys are familiar with the Master Grade DOM, it's just a kind of big round section there without too much detail on it at all. So that adding those panel lines on there does kind of help to break up the space very nicely. But I mean, very nice clean finish on there. Really nice color with the much more darker, more saturated purple color there than what the original kit has. So cool colors there with that super bright red. Also looks really nice. The layered decals also very cool. Just way to make your decal scheme a bit more interesting as well. I like that. With the one here on the leg, I think I'm not sure. I mean, it's tough because with such a smooth finish, the only really good way to avoid seeing the edge of that decal, maybe just to be cutting that decal further in on like this little triangle section here. But yeah, there wouldn't be too much you can do to avoid seeing the edge of the decal. But I don't know if maybe a little bit more softer maybe would have helped just to kind of smooth down the edge of the decal a little bit. Something I'm not too sure. And again, it's only the kind of thing that you can see like from this angle. If we look at it from a different angle, it's going to be much less apparent. Here, that one on the top. See, now we can see the line on the front, not the one on the top quite so much. And then here, you can't really see the line on the front very much, but you can see it on the top and the back. So it just kind of depends on how you're looking at it. And from here, I mean, it's out of focus, but you can't see any line there at all. So it's just kind of, that's just decals. I can't really do too much about that. The chest hasn't been refined from what I can tell. I appreciate the decal split cut from between. Yes, I was also going to mention about that. But yeah, the decal here, the Xeon logo being cut there along that pin line. So that's good. I mean, like the painting and like the decal work and everything here on the machine gun, the shield looks really nice. The bazooka on the back looks really nice. It's just these things, I think, for me, kind of busy the design a little bit much, where I think just keeping it fairly simple, I think, would have been the route that I would have taken for me personally. But I can see if you were going for more of like a kind of Thunderbolt-esque kind of design, then it definitely looks, it reminds me a lot of like something from Gundam Thunderbolt, and I think it's probably just because of just having a lot of stuff loaded onto it. Let's see, covering the decal in gloss coat, then some sanding, finishing off with the flat coat works great. Looks perfect, but it's hard to do tiny decals. So there you go. What Shako is saying, yeah, about gloss coating and then sanding very, very lightly, of course, on your decals, especially like on the edge of the decals. Could be done for the big one. Yeah, that's true. That is something that you could do. I'll never remember about that. I wouldn't have thought to mention about that. That's something I have very little experience with, sanding decals. But yes, forgot that is something that you can also try. I'm certainly no expert in that. Like I said, I think I've tried it like twice. Not really, just ever really had to. But this is that a different part? I think it's one of the Bandai like HG option parts, HG detail option parts there for the mono eye, if I'm correct. And that, but that looks good. Again, just like with the Jim Sniper, is using like those clear lens parts here on the chest. That's actually a combination of parts. That's actually also an HG Builders part, kind of sensor unit, I believe, like a radome part, and then using the clear lens parts in that. That looks pretty cool. I do really like that detail. That looks really nice. But overall, like the colors, the overall like clean finish, and like the decal layout all looks really nice. So here's what we're like what I was saying earlier about the Perfect Strike Freedom build that we saw. Keep forgetting the kit's name. Perfect Strike Freedom, how it had the striping along the front skirts. So like here's an example of where you have striping around one section. If you carry that into other parts of the build as well, kind of helps to sell the look of that. So that's carried up onto the shoulders and then onto the lower legs as well. So if you're going to have that, having it on, you know, kind of consistently throughout different parts of the build kind of helps the look of that. I'm kind of on the fence about that whole design aesthetic for decals of like lining along the edge of armor. Sometimes I like it, sometimes not. I think with a lot of recent, I think like recently in like the past few years or so, it's getting to the point of getting kind of overdone on a lot of stuff. Like I think it works well enough on this build, but like even from like the official Bandai's official decals, like from Bandai, like on the Master Grade Wing Gundam Zero EW Verka had too much of that, I think, and I think I talked about that in my like fully painted review of that once I had that kit all fully painted up. Whenever I talked about how I didn't use all of those decals because there was just too much of them, in my opinion, on that kit. Let's see. Shako is just adding to that about sanding the decals using 1000 grit and upwards. Yeah, you definitely want to use a very light sanding, either sandpaper or sanding stick. 1000 grit, yeah, or 1200, 1400, 1600. Generally only around the edges. Once you start sanding, you can see the edges and focus on those. I use only sanding sponges for that process, though, so no harsh surfaces. Okay. Important note, I'm talking here only about lacquer clear coats, Mr. Color, Gaia Notes, etc. I would never try it on acrylic or any water-based finishes. Okay, so yeah, very good points to note there from Shaka, who definitely has a lot more experience with that than me. So thanks for that, Shaka. Most Origin stuff has stripes galore. Yeah, a lot of Origin kits. Yeah, on the HG kits, they definitely have a pretty consistent theme of that as well. But there you go. That's the DOM. Another overall, I mean, both of those kits from Joel, both really nice. So thank you, Joel, for those. And that is, let me just double check to make sure. Yep, that's everything for today, guys. So just a few to go over. But again, big thank you to all those guys and everybody on Patreon, everybody who's supported there. Like I said, we do have our Discord, so everybody who's there in Discord and the people who aren't on Discord, but just a big thank you to everybody who's on Patreon. And thank you guys for watching, just for checking out the video today. We're, like I said, try to do these every month, but this one's just late. It seems like there's always something getting in the way to make it late, though. But yeah, our floor is being redone at home. Hopefully will be finished next week, like Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Hopefully Wednesday, fingers crossed. But hopefully that'll be done, and then that'll be a big weight off my shoulders. And I've just got a bunch of stuff that I've been working on, just getting a lot of kits built up basically in the meantime, to work on for reviews for you guys. And then obviously working on some custom builds. Some people have been asking about, let me show you this. People have been asking about the moon crab, and I've got that all primed now. So here's an example of like the torso and backpack part of the moon crab. So I've just gone with the mahogany primer on that. So I'm going to start painting that also next week. So I'll have an update for you guys on the moon crab soon. And once that's painted, then I'll be painting the, what did I call it? Blazing God Gundam, another kit bash that I was working on. And I'll be working on an update on the construction of the 5DR resin kit as well. So aside from just a lot of reviews that I'm kind of getting ready to work on for you guys, works in progress on different stuff and other kind of fun projects and things. So lots of stuff to get to once I'm kind of back in the office full time, like I am today. But it's kind of other stuff going on. We had our live stream this morning on the USA Gundam TV channel, Adam and I. So check that out if you guys missed that this morning. I know it's a Friday morning, so most of you guys are probably at work or something. So if you didn't catch it live, you can just watch it later. We had some good questions today, so check that out. And again, if you guys are interested in the Mekamasuma Contest, check out the video on that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, but we have the Mekamasuma Contest going on. You still have 2 months until the deadline for that, so it should be plenty of time. If you do want to start an entry for that, you can get going. And there's a beginner category and an advanced category. So whatever your skill level, wherever that might be at, hopefully you can still enter. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, just got word a little bit ago on what kind of the first big batch of prizes is going to be. But then we have more coming from Kotobukiya. So we got a bunch of prizes for that contest that are all being supplied directly from Kotobukiya, which is awesome. And we found out what a bunch of those were, but like I said, they said they've got some more on the way as well. So we'll see what those are. Once I know what all the prizes are, I'll let you guys know. But like I said, it's going to be a lot of stuff that you guys will be able to have a chance to win entering in that contest. And some great judges too. I don't want to miss an opportunity to mention the judges. Nick and Blondie are both amazing artists, published builders as well, which is a big deal. So they're both awesome. Really happy to have both of them on board, and they've been helping out quite a bit. So, all right, guys, could you do a kit bash of the Gyan with an O-Riser pack? Could you? Yeah, you could. I think that could be kind of interesting. I mean, it could be sort of. I mean, I think if you have a what was that? Not the what was the purple Gyan? Now I'm suddenly drawing a blank. What was that? Different version of the Gyan. Oh, I just had it in my head. What was that? Gyan Krieger. If you have the Gyan Krieger, I think that would probably be a better design because that kind of is a more angular version of the Gyan, and mixed with the riser pack, I think that would probably be a better fit. Just like because the regular Gyan has a lot more curves and stuff going on, where the Gyan Krieger is a lot more angular. I think it'd be a better fit, but it's not something I'm going to do. But if you want to try, sure, go ahead. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you for the next live stream. Is going to be the live stream of the double live stream of the new HG Witch from Mercury, Belgier Butte, and Lifrith kits. I'll live build both of those kits together in a live stream, hopefully on Monday. If not Monday, I'll let you guys know it'll be later in the week, but I'm going to try to get those ready for Monday. So I'll see you guys then. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.